Well, hey everyone, Chris McIntyre, Almost Above Average podcast here. I wanted to run you through The Real Threat, an article written on Substack by author Anthony Christian. The Real Threat Friday, Weaponization of Federal Power. This week we watched two moves that show how far the regime is willing to go. The FBI raid on John Bolton, it's not about justice, about intimidation. Critics get punished, and that's the message. Everyone should get this message loud and clear. No doubt in my mind, Biden and Obama will be next. Military deployments into blue cities, dressed up as crime prevention, but in reality, a conditioning drill to normalize occupation and opposition strongholds. Tell me again, what the midterms will be like? This is a collapse in plain sight. Law enforcement and the military turn inward, used as political weapons. Internal compliance is here. Next will be a detention center in every red state. For every prisoner they keep, the state will get funds. This is how red states survive under regime infrastructure once the blue states' funds stop rolling in. The plan is to collapse them completely. If the regime stays in power long enough, we will see this come to pass. Why this matters more than people think? Most Americans see themselves as isolated events. A raid here, a deployment there, but that's the danger. Once these steps feel routine, they become permanent tools of suppression, and I would argue that it is getting to feel like that right now. I mean, they've deployed them in LA, they've deployed them in Washington, D.C. I've heard reports about other cities, but if it's not happening in your city, it seems to be like no one's really, well, it's not happening here. It's not really that big of a deal. That seems to be the overwhelming sentiment that I get when I'm just talking to people out here in the world. Like, even the deportations, like, it's not a big deal. I haven't seen any ICE raids. It's like, you haven't seen it. That doesn't mean it's not happening. Anyway, that's besides. Most Americans still see these as isolated events, a raid here, a deployment there, but that's the danger. Once these steps feel routine, they become permanent tools of suppression. Bolton's raid tells every official, journalist, and citizen you can be next. Troops on the streets tell every blue city resistance can be patrolled away. Local police look like they can't do their jobs. And redistricting locks in the mass so the regime keeps power even if they lose the vote. This is not an abstract event. It is the scaffolding of authoritarianism being bolted into place. And authoritarian regimes don't announce themselves with a single decree. They creep in slowly. First, critics are investigated and harassed until silence feels safer than speaking. Then, troops or police appear in the streets under the banner of safety. Courts and legislatures start to bend, not with dramatic overhauls, but with small little rulings and quiet concessions. Media outlets echo the same story until dissent feels like we're going crazy. Then ordinary people keep their heads down, not because they agree, but because the cost of defiance rises month by month. By the time the walls are fully built, the state no longer asks for compliance. Fear has already trained people to give it willingly.